25% does sound impressive.
What's that?
25% does sound
Okay.
impressive.
I'd like to bring this meeting to order.
Of my
The
herd.
planning board of the town of Brunswick for June 24th, 2025. If everybody please rise for pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight's agenda includes several public hearings. So I'm going to review the agenda. This is posted in the town website and the town board. Number one, Hal Smith. Special use permit. Applicant seeks a special use permit for an accessory apartment on property located at 13 Heather Ridge Road. A public hearing to commence at 7 p.m. Hal Smith is the applicant. Number two, Crown Castle, amendment to special use permit and site plan. Applicant seeks an amendment to an existing special use permit and site plan pertaining to the wireless communications facility located at 8890 Pelletish Road. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Palage.
Pelish?
Palage.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Very good.
This is the Callahan Cropseyville Quarry location pursuant to the Federal Communications Act and related to the FCC rules and regulations. A public hearing is to commence at 7:15. Crown Castle is the applicant. Number three, Brazil. You're gonna have to excuse me. Thank you. Waiver of subdivision. Applicant seeks a waiver of subdivision to divide approximately 1 acre of land from his neighbor's parcel, which he will acquire and merge into the existing parcel located at 1 Angelo Drive. I'm having trouble saying, so if I'm stuttering here a little bit. Thomas Brazil is the applicant. Toledo Development Group, site plan, this is number 4. Applicant seeks site plan approval to construct a retail store on 1.19 acre parcel of property located at 291 Oakwood Avenue. Thomas Murley is the applicant. Number 5, Paramount Building Group, major subdivision. Applicant proposes a major subdivision on approximately 33 acre parcel of land, as well as construction on a new road with a cul-de-sac and a water line extension on property located on the northeast corner of Spring Avenue Extension and Crick Road. Paramount Building Group of New York is the applicant. Number 6, CVE North America, waiver of subdivision, site plan, and special use permit. Applicant seeks to subdivide 99.51 acre parcel into 2 small or new lots of 24.96 acres and 74.55 acres, and construct 2 community solar facilities on property located at 511 McChesney Avenue Extension. CVE North America Incorporated is the applicant, and there is also some new business on their agenda after the formal agenda. So with that being said, we do have 2 public hearings. These public hearings are for Hal Smith and Crown Castle. And they are public hearings only for those 2 projects. At this time, I'll read the procedure of public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear concerns, comments, and views from the general public regarding a particular proposal or application. All public hearings are electronically recorded, and a written record of the proceedings is generated. In most cases, this written record is included with the minutes of the planning board regular meeting, which is usually conducted immediately after the public hearing. The applicant will be required to respond to all concerns and comments made at the public hearing and subsequently The planning board will consider all concerns and comments when evaluating the application to ensure that the applicant has addressed all the issues in question. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. The notice of public hearing will be read by the planning board attorney. Next, the applicant will give a brief presentation on the proposal and will provide any updates on the application. Upon completion of the applicant's remarks, the chairman of the planning board will recognize persons from the public, and these individuals will be allowed to speak and offer their comments, concerns, and views. Since the proceedings of the public hearings are electronically recorded, it is requested that all speakers step up to the podium and use the microphone at the podium. All speakers will give their name and address for the record. Okay, I will now open up the first public hearing. And this is for Hal Smith, special use permit. And I'll have Andy read the notice of public hearing.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the planning board of the town of Brunswick at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June 24, 2025, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180, to review the special use permit application submitted by Hal Smith in connection with the construction of an accessory apartment on property located at 13 Heather Ridge Road. Copies of the application and supporting documents are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing, with the notice having been published in the Troy Record, posted on the signboard and the town website, and mailed to owners of properties located within 300 feet of the project site.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith, if you'd like to come up and give a presentation, if you would, this is for the benefit of the public, so just kind of put your presentation pointing then.
Good evening. This is for a special use permit for an accessory apartment on my daughter's house, for my wife and I. It's a 800 square foot addition. Been approved through the zoning board for a piece of property.
Okay. Brief is okay.
Brief is okay.
Okay. Just as a note, you did have to go before the zoning board for
Yes.
an area variance.
For the side setback, yes.
And that was approved. Okay. This time I'll welcome anyone to come up and make any comments, have any questions on this. And this is, once again, just for the Hal Smith special use permit. Once again, anyone wish to make any comments? Okay. This is not unusual, so don't be alarmed at that.
Okay.
So at this time, I don't see any reason why we would have to extend this public hearing to include a written period of comments. Does anyone feel any need to do that? Okay. Then I will make a motion to close this public hearing. Do I have a second? Second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're all set.
Thank you.
However, you have to stay for the meeting.
Okay. Should I get you?
So you're first on our agenda for the regular meeting, and then we'll discuss public. I know I'm a little bit early on 7:15. We could just wait a couple minutes just to make sure that anybody was interested in the second public hearing with Crown Castle has a chance to be here. If the representatives from Crown Castle want to come up and set up there, certainly welcome to do that. Okay,
Just me.
just you,
Can
okay.
I wait until 7:15 exactly?
Well, I think we can open the public hearing. So we are now opening up the public hearing for Crown Castle USA Incorporated. And this is an amendment to a special use permit and site plan. At this time, I'll have Attorney Gilchrist read the notice of public hearing.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the planning board of the town of Brunswick at 7:15 PM on Tuesday, June 24, 2025, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180, to review an application pursuant to Section 6409 of the Federal Spectrum Act to modify a previously approved site plan and special use permit submitted by Crown Castle USA Incorporated concerning a wireless communication facility located at 88-90 Altish Road. Thank you. Callahan, Cropseyville Quarry location. The applicant has submitted an application as an eligible facility request pursuant to federal law for the replacement of transmission equipment and modification to the base station. Copies of the application and supporting documents are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing. This was published in the Troy Record, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website, mailed to owners of property located within 300 feet of the project site, and in this case, also served on the Grafton Town Clerk.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, could you just give the audience a brief?
Yes, very brief. My name is Don Carpenter. I'm here representing Crown Castle. And I just want to verify, is this public hearing covering the replacement of the Verizon antennas as well as the addition of the T-Mobile? Or just the addition of the T-Mobile antenna?
Your initial application.
So just the addition of T-Mobile?
That's correct. Yeah.
So the monopole, you may have not noticed, it's very difficult to see unless you are actually on the Red Pit property. I tried to get a photograph of it, and you really can't see it unless you go beyond the gate, which I didn't do. So you may not ever have noticed it. It was built in 2004 for Verizon. And I think even at that time, it was anticipated that, every tower needed to prepare itself for future co-locators, which it was designed for. Subsequently, I think AT&T is located on the tower. And now T-Mobile wants to add antennas and equipment. So the antennas obviously go on the tower, and there's a compound expansion on the ground, 7 feet by 12 feet, which is all within Crown's in this area. So it is an expansion. It's less than the federally dictated definition of minor, which they say is 10%. So both the addition of the antennas and square footage is less than 10%, and the addition of the compound space on the ground is less than 10%. It's 8.2%. So it's a minor application, and that's the very reason they submitted under the 6409. I wish I had plans to display, but I do not. I apologize. But I will-
We have plans here, there was plans.
It's a fairly straightforward
Yeah.
application.
Okay. Just as a clarification before I have people come up, could you clarify the two applications at this site?
Well, this, again, there was an initial application for T-Mobile equipment, and now there's also been an application submitted, I believe, for Verizon.
Right.
So that will need to be reviewed as well.
Okay,
That's under your new business.
okay. But that, is that the one on Rock Canyon? Or is that the one at the same
No.
location?
No, there's a separate one for Ball Mountain. There's two new applications.
Okay. I'm sure people will get me through this today.
Busy
Okay.
schedule. So.
Okay, then at this time, I'll ask the audience if there's anyone who wishes to come up and make any comments or have any questions for the applicant. If there's none, once again, is there anyone who wishes to come up to make any comments, express any views, have any questions on this particular site plan and special use permit? Okay, once again, I will canvass the board. Is there any need to extend a period of written comment? I don't think there is. Okay. And I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
One second.
Is there any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have gotten through the public hearing phase of the meeting. Now we're going to start the regular meeting agenda. First on our things to do is the review of the minutes of June 5th. So everybody had an opportunity to review those. Is there any corrections, additions, amendments, questions on the minutes? Hearing none, I will make a motion to accept the minutes as they were submitted. Do I have a second?
One second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, first on our agenda is the Smith. You've already went through the explanation, just as a checklist here. You did get your approval from the ZBA for the area variance. And you did have the public hearing, obviously. There was no comments. We usually, if there is comments, we require the applicant to submit a written response to all those comments. However, since there isn't any, then we're waiving that. We could actually move forward in discussing possible approval of this. Does anybody have any questions on this? Okay. Can I get a secret determination? Okay, there's a secret determination of NADAC on, do I have a second on that? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now on the approval of the special use permit, is there any conditions that have to be placed on that? Time for a building permit, anything like that? No, it's fine. Okay,
I'll make a motion if there is none.
okay,
I'll second
a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're all set,
Thank you.
okay?
Thanks for your indulgence.
No problem. Do you need copies of a drawing to be stamped or anything? Drawings that I can stamp? Okay, second on our agenda is the Crown Castle amendment to a special use permit site plan. Come on back up. Okay, once again, we had a public hearing, there was no comments. Normally, we require a written response, and we will waiver that. and we can move forward with addressing this and approving it or whatever it seems to be. Does anybody have any questions on this?
Just clarification that this is for the first application, the T-Mobile.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's the other applications for this tower also.
There is another application in this town for Verizon, just swapping antennas.
That's new
That-
business. though.
Yeah,
That's new.
that will be
That's new
later.
business.
Well, I don't know, we were talking about Rock Candy Mountain and Ball Mountain. I was
And there's
Another
trying to
one.
keep up here.
there's three applications, basically. that have
This
been
is how, again,
This one is on Calvin too.
Okay.
Do they still own that? Heidelberg doesn't?
I don't know, I'm just
Swoop
used to
in there?
saying that name.
Right, and is there any engineering comments on this?
No, the plans were complete, I reviewed them, and everything was good.
Okay. Andy, can we proceed with a secret determination and a motion?
Well, the answer would be yes. There is no seeker review because recall under federal law, if this does qualify as a minor amendment, a minor modification to the existing tower, federal law requires you to go through the procedure under local zoning, but it does mandate an approval. It's a non-discretionary approval. And as such, there's no seeker review, so you can proceed right to any action on the amendment to the special use permit itself.
Do I hear possibly a motion
I'll
to,
make a motion to approve if there's no secret.
Correct.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we're all set on that one.
Very good.
Okay. You're gonna have to stick around now.
I am, yes.
Okay, number 3 is Gazelle River subdivision. You came before us under new business at our last meeting. And we did look at that. And I didn't see any questions on it, it was pretty well straightforward. Does anybody have any questions on that? Wayne, do you have any comments, engineering wise?
No, it's pretty straightforward, we're just, taking an acre and, combining it with his existing lot.
Okay. Kevin, do you have any additional information on
No.
this? Okay. All right, is there any conditions that have to be placed on an approval on this?
Just in these cases, the board does require that you'll be merging that 1 acre into your existing lot. There'll be a merger deed, that deed just be also filed with the building department.
Okay. Okay, then I will entertain a secret determination on this.
I'll make a motion for negative declaration.
A second.
Any second? Is there any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now on the motion to approve with the condition that was previously stated by Andy.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
There's a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All set?
Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along. Number 4, Polito. You're here tonight?
No, I don't see him.
You're supposed to review the comments. We did get a copy of the comment review. Do we,
Generally, the board does not proceed in the absence of the applicant.
okay. All right, maybe he's late, so we'll just table Toledo Development Group, and move on to number 5, which is our Paramount Building Group, major subdivision. Hello, Matt. How are
Well, how are you?
Good.
I'm Bob Clark, engineering, here on behalf of Paramount Building Group.
you? Okay.
TJ Ruane, Certificate Project.
Okay, now we, the things we did receive, a comment, a site visit, there was a site visit by numerous parties. We are on a situation where, determining lead agency or whether lead agency was going to change. And so, there was a meeting, I believe, at DEC, which Wayne, I believe, Kevin was at it. And you have a statement that you'd like to make on that? Or a?
Yes,
Okay,
I did put together a memorandum to the planning board, kind of summarizing the meeting of June 13th. There was a meeting on June 13th at the site. There were representatives from New York State DEC. That included Patrick Connolly, who's the Division of Environmental Permits, Jamie June, Division of Mineral Resources, and William Buto, who's in environmental permitting. Also present was Bill Bradley, the Stormwater Coordinator and Utilities Director, Kevin Manella, Code Enforcement Officer, myself, one of my staff who reviewed the stormwater was there. For the applicant, it was Matt Bond with Hard Engineering and TJ with White Osterman, who's the applicant's attorney. I failed to mention in my memo that the owner was there as well, Tom Willits. I left him off, but I'll just make that amendment and redistribute this to all parties.
okay,
Basically, the meeting involved an overview of what's happening at the site. We just kind of went over the subdivision and what's been done to date. And I just summarized that briefly in my memo. Some of the items we discussed were the seeker items. Had a discussion with DEC about the seeker review, whether DEC had any desire, I'll say, to be lead agency on this application. They were non-committal, however. They indicated that if it's a viable project, that if it's a real subdivision, it gets built, and it's not gonna end up being used as a gravel line, that they don't have any problem with the town being the lead agency. So again, it's like chicken and the egg, or the cart before the horse, or however you wanna say, but the 30 days has expired for them to respond, and they have not responded that they want to be lead agency, so.
now when you say the town, do you say the town or the planning board is the lead agency?
Town planning board.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And in my memo, I did send this out to DEC for them to review. They did have some comments on it. Let me read what Jamie June from DEC said. He said, until the project has all necessary approvals, including the town's subdivision and site plan approval, if applicable, DEC is unable to determine that the site is a construction project that is not subject to permitting requirements of the mined land reclamation law.
No, we kind of knew that, didn't we?
Kinda. Well, they also indicated in this meeting that DEC no longer issues exemptions for mining activities.
You like construction exemptions and stuff like that?
Any mining exemptions. Either it's permissible or it's not. There's no exemptions.
And the way I understood that was they won't give us something in writing saying this project is exempt, you meet the exemption. The way I understand it, and I believe DEC confirmed, is they have parameters that a construction project must stay within in order to avoid being deemed mining activity and requiring a permit. And we believe that we can stay within those parameters, and that's, length of time and what you're mining. You can't build a house on one side of 40 acres and then mine the other side of the property, and the two have nothing to do with each other. So that's what they're trying to avoid.
Okay.
So as long as we stay within those parameters, then us or anybody, we would not be required to get a mining permit. We believe that we can stay within those parameters, including the time frame and the other criteria that they set forth in their other letter. And that's what I understood. And then I also understood, had there was no subdivision and we would go for a mining permit, then DEC would want to be lead agency on that.
Right, okay, I can understand that.
And just for my edification, when they say site, they don't mean that the material all needs to stay on the same site. They're just saying that the site of this subdivision and the site of the mining needs to be the same. Not that the material needs to move from one place to another on the same parcel,
No,
correct?
sorry, I might have confused you with that statement. It's just, I'm kind of paraphrasing the criteria, but essentially what it's trying to get to is that the excavation that you're performing is for the purposes of constructing the subdivision, and they're not completely unrelated. Because they don't want people to try to get the exemption by sort of skirting around the law by just saying, oh yeah, well, in the future, we're definitely gonna put a subdivision here, but then mine it for 10 years. So there's a time frame. I think it's between 6 months and 2 years that you have to complete the excavation. And then anything that went beyond that, any applicant or any construction project would have to deal with DEC that, and then requiring them. And especially in an area where it's not zoned for mining, could be an issue.
Is there any consideration through this whole process about trying to balance the site, like taking fill from one and filling into another? Is that part of this project?
Yeah, yep, so we did look to balance and bring up grades where necessary, especially to make, like the driveways, for example, coming through here, we're losing fill all through this area.
Yeah.
To level off these grades and make these driveways, basically as safe as possible, to minimize the slope on those lots. So the biggest issue here is the fact with the existing grades there, that they're rather steep, so they're not passable by car, they're well above town code. So that's where the majority of the material being generated. We did look at balance as much as we could on site.
Meaning John Henderson and I visited the site the other day, and we were just kind of looking at it. And it seems to me like if you take 400,000 yards out of there, you're going to create a pretty steep slope in that back. Is there some type of stormwater issues that have to be addressed there or anything like that?
Yeah, so the grade just, for example, here, it's lot number 7 at the end of the cul-de-sac. Basically, at the midpoint of the driveway, you're, on the proposed grading, you're very close to matching what the existing grades are on site. So we're very much climbing up into the site and trying to match existing grade as quickly as possible, maintaining that road grade. And then here's, I believe there we were talking in the back of the cul-de-sac and the concern for stormwater. Any stormwater that's going to run through that area will continue to discharge the same location that it has previously. That's all going to go to the stormwater management area for treatment prior to leaving the site.
Okay.
Yeah, and where the driveway is now is not where the driveway is going to be. It's moved further north.
It's further up Quick Road.
Yeah.
Right.
The driveway is somewhat long here.
Yeah, it's about, I think it's about here.
Yeah.
Right now, and we'll be shifting up, there's a telephone pole further up the
Yeah.
road that is going to be really kind of next to that pole.
Okay. Now, we had some discussion at the last meeting, direct this towards Andy about, what comes first, chicken or the egg here? And we pretty much going to move forward with the idea that, reviewing the site plan as build site? Do we need new drawings or anything like that? For that to.
So first off, the site meeting that you had with Wayne, it certainly got the department's input on seeker.
Yeah.
And right, as of right now, the record is there's no objection from DEC, so it's properly in front of the board to consider the declaration of lead agency.
Right,
But again, as lead agency, you do need to review the potential adverse environmental impacts from the action. That includes the subdivision and the proposed grading plan. And Wayne will have to review that as part of the technical seeker review.
okay.
Right, well, yeah, the removal of any material from the site is part of the subdivision and it's part of the construction, so.
Okay. So I think there was a question, as far as lead agency, we should tonight formally declare ourselves lead.
Procedurally, that would be appropriate for the board to consider tonight.
Okay?
Can I finish my discussion on my memo?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you can move on.
Okay.
There's just a couple of items, I just didn't want to get lost in this. We did review stormwater, and DEC did request that a copy of the SWIP be sent to Patrick Connolly and to another gentleman at DEC down in Portland, who's in a permit unit. So they have asked for information on the stormwater. The town is an MS4, so they don't have the approval. It's up to the town to do all the paperwork on the slip, and the NOI and all that stuff. So,
Okay.
one more thing on the wetlands. We did have a discussion with Will Buto at DEC. And there are federal jurisdictional wetlands on site. The new DEC regulations requires a jurisdictional determination from DEC. And they requested that the applicant submit the proper paperwork to them for that.
Okay.
And I'm done.
Thank you. Okay. And procedurally, we should make a motion to declare ourselves lead agency.
If that's properly in front of you, if you'd like to move forward.
Okay. Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any objections or questions on that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you're officially the lead agency. So now, what do we need moving forward here as far as site plan material?
The site plans are complete. We did do one round of comments, and Matt is going through those. I don't think we've heard back on all of them yet.
Yeah, yep, just about complete. Those when you should be seeing the person.
There is one thing I think that we need in order to continue with our seeker review, and that is some more data or calculations on the amount of material that's coming out of there. I haven't seen any calculations on that, like cut fills, where the material's going, how it's getting there, those kind of things I think are important.
I think it'd be appropriate for the record, Wayne, if you could do a review memo on additional information that you need on the material removal, just so we're complete and it's fair to the applicant, so they can fully respond.
Sure.
And the wetlands that the DEC mentioned? Do you need additional information about the wetlands?
Yeah, I can put that in my, letter to them.
Are we gonna get existing topos and final topos?
Yep, those are in the site plan package currently.
With the cut and fill numbers on it, or?
Cut and fill numbers are not, cut and fill numbers are not. Yep, that was, in the, email correspondence that we shared with DEC staff originally when I asked about that. The
Would you
total
do-
exports in there.
Like a grid plan for cut and fill?
It would probably be a tabular format,
Okay.
just showing cuts, fills, and expected export from the site. So, yeah, I don't have to do it by hand anymore with the grid.
No, but
I get to punch
the
it in.
computer can do it
The
for you.
computer can do it.
Is that an AutoCAD?
Yes, yes.
So they can do cuts and fills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the calculus that I had to learn, I asked if I have to do that. In practice, I don't have to do in practice anymore. The computer
Yeah,
does
my
the
mom
calculus
told
for
me I didn't need to learn how to type because I'd have a secretary. She was not right.
Yeah, but we can absolutely, we can add that in our response to Lee's office memo. So,
Lauren also wanted, some boring information.
Yep.
You still owe her that?
yes, yeah, that's gonna be shown on the updated plans.
For stormwater.
Yeah.
You're working with the county health department on,
Yep. Yeah,
septic system.
yeah, so I think there are only 2 or 3 items left to take care of on their last time letter.
And just so that there's no surprises, the information Wayne may need to review for seeker on the excavation and material removal will be what really amounts to what's the grading plan, what equipment will be used, volumes coming off, like the noise projections from the equipment to be used, truck routes, traffic counts, things like that, so that all the potential environmental impacts associated with the material removal part of the subdivision can be fully analyzed by Wayne's office, and he can counsel the board. But that will be.
And I'll
in the
go
review
through
memo.
all the items of the review, and then if there's anything else that, I need more information on, then I'll put that in my letter.
Good.
I guess, you've got some work to do, right? I would assume that you would want to be put on our next meeting agenda to keep this process rolling.
Yes, please remind me what that is.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. We are not going to have a meeting on our normal scheduled date of July 3rd. The next one would be July 17th. So that's going to be our next meeting,
Yes,
okay?
thank you very much.
That'll give you some time, I think.
Yeah.
All right,
Absolutely.
perfect, okay. Anybody have any other additional questions? Okay, then I think we're done for this evening.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay,
Have a nice evening.
you too. Yeah, I did get word that Toledo Development is on their way, but we're going to move forward to the sixth item on our agenda, which is CVE North America waiver of subdivision site plan and special use permit.
Good evening, Gary Cosentino,
Good evening, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
Good. I think we're at a stage right now where we should be Considering our review of the phase, part 2 of the EAF, and we want to review that tonight in order to move forward with the safer determination on this. We have all received the draft copy of that. Is that made available to you at all?
It has not.
We're going to review the draft now, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, Jim.
Once again, this is just the part 2. After we review this, the board will discuss what the findings are of part 2 to determine which way we're going to proceed. So this is all new to the board right now. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Wayne. You need a second copy of that?
Yeah, the one that stands draft dated 6/20/2025.
Is that the one? Okay. Do you have a second? I think
I have one. What do you see?
You handed them out there.
There you go. You can use that one. Okay, Wayne, the floor is yours.
Ready? Okay, the last meeting, you had asked me to draft part 2 of the full environmental assessment form, which is identification of potential project impacts. This part 2, completed by lead agency, is designed to help the lead agency inventory all potential resources that could be affected by a proposed project or action. When Part 2 is completed, the lead agency will have identified the relevant environmental areas that may be impacted by the proposed activity. Starting on page 1, item number 1, impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. I answered that yes. Did kind of write some notes here. Proposed solar panel array involves the installation of solar panels that will cover a large area of ground within the subject parcels. The panels are supported by posts driven into the ground, resulting in preservation of the vast majority of the ground cover and minimum disturbance of the soil. The only real impact to the ground will come from the installation of the access drive and electrical equipment pads. Therefore, the overall environmental impact on land caused by this project will not be significant. I mark that as no or small impact. Any comments or questions on that?
Impact on what?
What's that?
I'm ready.
You with me?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're saying that the posts are going to be driven into the ground, they're not going to go into the concrete?
I was looking for the map that had the overlay on the slopes greater than 15%. And I believe that the applicants avoided most areas. But I couldn't find that map tonight when I was looking for it, so I apologize. But you could just verify for me that that's correct.
Based on my review, I believe that to be correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions on number one? We good?
We're good?
Okay. On page 2, item number 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site, such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves. The answer to that is no.
I'm sorry, I'd like to back up to section 1.
It's your prerogative, Don.
Go ahead.
The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether for, this is section F.
Yep.
I don't know how we can ignore that because you don't have water cascading off of these solar panels, creating erosion.
It's still gonna have, be in a vegetative state, there's gonna be grass growing, and they are mitigating that by having the stormwater pollution prevention plan in place, plus the temporary soil erosion and sediment control plans, which are submitted with the application to mitigate that. I'm not saying that's not any impact, but it's adequately mitigated and therefore it's small.
So you're saying it is gonna create erosion, but they're dealing with it?
Correct. If they adequately mitigate it, then the impacts are not significant.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're at 3 now. Is that correct?
Yes, 3. Impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, such as streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes. The answer to that is yes. There are wetlands on the site. There are minor impacts to those wetlands. They do have to cross one wetland with their connection road between the 2 solar fields. They have provided plans how they're going to do that. They also need to get a permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in order to do that. I felt that they had adequate mitigation. They are avoiding all the other wetlands on site. And therefore, if they're adequately mitigating as they say they are in their plans, that impact is small.
Any questions on number 3?
There is a, can I just back up a little?
You have the floor?
There is, there are mapped New York State DEC wetlands on site, way up on the north end, and they do kind of grab a corner of that property. However, there are no solar panels or any disturbance going on in that portion of the property.
And does this, and the same, new DEC regulations apply to this project as applied to the last project that was completed, correct?
Yes. So what the applicant needs to do is get a jurisdictional determination from DEC on those federal wetlands, whether or not they'll take jurisdiction over those as well.
We did submit a dual permit to the DEC and got Army Corps of Engineers. That's in place.
So you haven't heard back from them?
Correct.
And just to clarify for the record, was that submitted under the new DEC wetlands regs in 25, asking for the determination?
It was recently submitted.
Yeah, they'll come back to you and tell you what your next move is under the new regs.
I'm having a problem with, sections E, H, I. The categories, the top of the column say, small impact may occur.
Yeah.
Well, where do you cut off small and large? Because we're talking about 16,000 cows here.
I understand that, but the item is for just impacts to surface water. That means wetlands, water bodies.
Well, there's a stream that runs underneath McChesney Avenue. at the
The
bottom.
stream that runs through the project.
And that dumps into the Poston.
Correct.
Okay. So the position is that this is not gonna add to any turbidity in the Poston Kill
Correct.
from 16,000 pounds. Because, you know, we've had some horrendous rainstorms
I understand that.
several weeks.
The turbidity is caused by open ground. There's not going to be any, once it's fully built, there won't be any exposed soil. It'll all be field slime.
You don't think that there'll be channels underneath these panels, somewhere the water runs off?
They have filter strips under all the panels.
I'm sorry, they have what?
Filter strips. If you look at the plans, you can see in their stormwater prevention plans, how they're mitigating the runoff from the panels and from overlaying sheet flow.
I think also to Mr. Holmes's point is, frankly, we can't put turbid water into the coastal kill. It's illegal. And DEC would be on us pretty fast. It would be a stormwater violation, it would be a violation of clean water, violation of the speeds permit as well.
And what would be the outcome of that? Fine?
No, the department would shut down the project site.
I'm sorry.
The department would move to shut down the construction of the project site. DEC takes turbid water into one.
Well, I mean, what happens after all these panels are installed, and then that happens? Did they make you take the panels out?
Well, I think, as we were discussing, the project is going to be vegetated, so there won't be open soil to turbid. It would only be during construction, that's the kind of SWIP and stormwater practices.
Have there been any comments from DEC yet? Because the Poston Kill is a drought stream.
Also, it's too far away
It's too far away.
for permitting purposes. There's no direct discharge into the Poston Kill.
Isn't that stream a direct,
It eventually makes its way into the Poston Kill.
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't understand the distinction. Is there a distance or what? Calculation?
Well, this site discharges into that little stream that runs down through the property.
Right.
That little stream eventually discharges into the Poston Kill.
Right.
That's the whole reason why they have to put a SWIP together. That's why they do soil erosion sediment control plans, is to prevent turbid water from entering any water body, including that little stream, including the Poston Kill.
So you're basically saying,
Hudson River.
you're basically saying the Poston Kill is like, almost like a secondary situation versus a primary
Correct.
situation. Okay.
And the town is an MS4, so it's their responsibility to make sure that the SWIP is being followed. They have to have inspection there once a week to do the SWIP inspections. After every 1 inch rainfall, they have to send somebody out to do the inspection. They have to keep all their erosion sediment control measures in place the whole time, up until such time that the grass grows and all the permanent erosion sediment control measures are installed. And so that's the mitigation. They're required to do that because they're in MS4, and it's the stormwater coordinator that makes sure that all those inspections are being done.
All right. Can we move forward?
Yeah.
You good?
Number 4, impact on groundwater, that's on page 3. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. There will be no activity on the site that will impact groundwater resources. The answer is no. Any comment on that? Hearing none, I'm moving along. Also on page 3, number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development plans subject to flooding. According to the FEMA National Flood Hazard Layer map data, the subject parcel was not located within the boundaries of a map 100-year floodplain. There is a small section of property in the northwestern portion directly adjacent to the 100-year floodplain, Zone A. This portion of the property is not being developed as part of this solar installation and will be no impact on flooding. Any questions on that?
Next.
Page 4, 6, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. As the project is intended to operate as a passive solar array, the project will have no impact on air quality. Questions, comments on that? Number 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. The proposed project proposes the installation of a solar array over a large area, which will result in some impact to plants and vegetation. However, as the panels will be supported by posts driven into the ground, plants will continue to grow over the majority of the ground surface. Any animals that traverse or live in the area will continue their use. Based on the reporting provided by the design engineer, there are no documented occurrences of federal or state regulated rare, threatened, or endangered species, nor their habitat within the subject parcels. A number of trees are expected to be removed for installation of the panels and access drives. Plantings are proposed around the east and south property boundaries to act as vegetative screening. As such, the impact caused by this project on plants and animals is expected to be minimal. So you're saying there is some impact, the impact is small.
Just two things. You had mentioned, I believe, at the last meeting that your 8-foot fence line, there's going to be a space underneath.
We can't leave a space on.
Was that something that you were going to do, or?
It could be written into the conditions of the permit.
Yeah, I think there's 6 inches underneath
Okay.
on the plans now as they're written.
And just
And the fence is a wire fence, it's not a chain link fence or anything, it's
Like an ag fence.
it's like an egg fence on the
Okay.
post.
And one other thing, at the last item under I, the use of herbicides and pesticides, we've already determined that would be part of the approval, no pesticides or herbicides. Proceed.
The next item on page 5, impact on agricultural resources. Proposed action may impact agricultural resources. The project is located in an agricultural district. The project will result in physical alteration of more than 2.5 acres in an ag district, which triggers a type 1 action. There will be no irreversible conversion of ag land to non-ag use by the installation of the solar panels. Upon decommissioning and removal of the solar panels, the property can revert back to the original agricultural use. We're saying that there is an impact, but the impacts are small on ag resources.
Carol.
I don't think there's anybody in this room that's gonna be around in 30 years, so it's kind of gonna be very emotional for all of us. I just,
Thank you.
it's probably, no, you keep-
Are we okay with that? Item number 9 on page 6. Impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. I did answer yes to that one. I would like to kind of rip off some of my notes and then we'll go through each of these items. According to the visual impact assessment report prepared by RU Environmental Engineering and Geology for CDE North America, the facility is visible to the Garfield School, which is on the National Registry, located near the intersection of Route 2 and Moonlawn Road. Also in the VIA, it says approximately 50% of Route 2, a high-use road that passes through the 2-mile radius of the viewshed study area, has views of the facility. Portions of the residential zones in the viewshed study area have visibility of the site. Views of the project from segments of McChesney Avenue Extension and Moonlawn Road produce the greatest visual impact and clear views of the site. The project will be more visible during winter when leaves are off the trees, especially for residents situated along these road segments. The scale, color, dimension, type of land use is not consistent with and in sharp contrast to nearby scenic resources and surrounding land uses. Vegetative screening proposed for the project only partially screens views of the facility. The portion of the facility at higher elevations of the site are largely visible to those traveling along Chesney Avenue as well as other state, county, and local roadways. Going down through the items, number 9, we'll look at A. Proposed action may be visible from any officially designated federal, state, or local scenic or aesthetic resource. I said no or small impact to that. There are no officially designated federal, state, or local scenic or aesthetic resources. Item B, the proposed action may result in the obstruction, elimination, or significant screening of one or more officially designated scenic views. That is no. Item C, the proposed action may be visible from publicly accessible vantage points. And they break it down between seasonally, screened by summer foliage, but visible during other seasons and year-round. I did identify that as having a moderate to large impact, but it is visible from publicly accessible vantage points seasonally. As far as year-round, in the summertime, when the leaves are on, the foliage is in full, summer foliage is largely screened. I said the impact is small year-round and moderate to large seasonal. Item D, the situation or activity in which viewers are engaged while viewing the proposed action is one, routine travel by residents, including travel to and from work. I identified that as a moderate to large impact. As far as recreation or tourism-based activities, I said it's a small impact. Item 9E, the proposed action may cause a diminishment of the public enjoyment and appreciation of the designated aesthetic resource. I said no to small impact. And there are similar projects visible within the distance of the proposed project. They just give different distances away. A similar project visible within the following distance. There are other similar projects visible at some distance away. Comments, questions on item number 9?
I would just, on item C, visible from publicly accessible vantage points. Item 2, year-round, I believe it is going to be visible, but they are proposing a mitigating screening.
Correct.
So if they don't do the mitigation, it is visible year-round.
Right. Any comments or questions from the board on this item?
I'm going to take exception to item E.
We're finishing item C though, right?
We're kind of looking at them all.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I think the public enjoyment of looking at that field is going to be higher than the public enjoyment of looking at solar panels.
The key word there is, a key phrase is designated aesthetic resource. If you go through the DEC workbook, it kind of describes what that means. See that, you did that up there somewhere? Not really good definition.
Isn't it places like Alana or somewhere where you have like
Yeah, when they say designated scenic resource, we're talking about those areas like a scenic road, like a scenic highway. There are no scenic highways. Route 2 maybe up in the County Trail or Mohawk Trail is probably the scenic highway, not in Brunswick.
Wasn't there some mention in the comprehensive plan when they were doing developments as far as, they basically said that Route 7 would be the commercial corridor and Route 2 would be maintained as more or less the scenic highway going through the town. Wasn't there some mention of that?
Subject to check.
Okay.
I think I recall that also.
I guess the other question is that considered designated scenic resource?
I would note the town comprehensive plan is officially adopted as such, the town's comprehensive plan, so that should be checked to determine how Route 2 is characterized in that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't checked it myself, but I think it's worth looking into.
I'd like to go back to see where Linda was, the year round.
Yep.
I can see that site from, I think I brought it up before, from Creek Road. Summertime, I can see pretty much all of the 100 acres. I can see the house, everything. So, I'm not sure.
Well, I guess the board now has to determine whether that is a significant impact. You can see it from 5 miles away, you can see it from a mile away, you can see it from 1,000 feet away. I guess the board needs to decide if that's an impact.
Is it moderate to large or is it small?
Yeah, right.
And certainly, I think seasonally is large. Moderate to large. In the winter season.
Which item is that?
C,
C.
number 1. You have marked moderate to large, and I would agree. And
You're saying year-round, that it would be a moderate to large impact?
He already has it marked.
no, he has it marked as small, year round.
For the year round.
Year-round,
I'm saying
yeah.
For the year round, moderate to large. And that's what I'm saying.
Okay. So the board in concurrence that that should be a moderate to large impact.
I believe so. Want to vote here on that? Does everybody agree with that?
If you tell me as a group that that's a moderate to large impact.
Well, that's what we're trying to determine right now. Does everybody agree that it's more a moderate to large all year round? Okay. I guess the board concurs that. So that would be changed, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, this is a draft, and I would turn it into,
Oh, that's what, yeah,
I'm not here.
okay.
Any other comments on this?
All right, number 10.
Number 10 is impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. State Historic Preservation Office issued a letter dated December 13th, 2024, stating that it is the opinion of OPRHP that no properties, including archaeological and/or historic resources listed in or eligible for the New York State and National Register of Historic Places will be impacted by this project. So check that off as no.
Number 11.
Number 11, impact on open space and recreation. Proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resources as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. This property is not designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. Therefore, there will not be an impact.
Just to clarify that, it's not like a designated park or baseball field or something like
Or
that.
if it was just designated as open space.
Okay. All right. Impact on transportation, number 13.
We skipped one.
12.
Impact on critical environmental areas, there are no critical environmental areas.
Okay, now number 13.
Impact on transportation, proposed action may result in change to existing transportation systems. As the project is intended to operate as an unoccupied passive solar array, the project will result in no significant traffic impact. Any comments or questions on that one? Hearing none, I'll move along. Number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. By its nature, the project will generate energy rather than consume it, therefore there will be no significant impact on energy. Check no on that. Number 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
There's no outside lighting near the gates or anything like that.
We'll check no on that one.
Okay? And noise. Is there any noise generated by any type
I
of,
think the motors hum when they rotate, but they go so slow, correct?
And then the noise would come from the inverters, which are at the center of the array, and once you're 50 feet away, it's ambient noise.
okay? I think that was discussed at other applications for solar fields and so forth. Okay,
Number 16, impact on human health. Proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. As the project is intended to operate as a passive solar array, generation of airborne contaminants is not expected to occur, nor are there any records of potential contaminants in the ground that might be disturbed. Therefore, there will not be a significant impact on human health. Any questions or comments on that?
I have a question. There are hazardous materials in these panels, is there not?
We use tier 1 solar panels, which do not contain toxic chemicals.
So any damage to these panels would not leach?
Correct. It's all self-contained. And anything in the panel is self-contained.
Okay. I think I just, what came to my attention, I saw an article on hail damage to some of these older panels, I think, they release some toxins into the soil. This is not the case with these.
Correct. No, that technology has come a long way. Those panels are no longer in use.
Okay.
And the tier 1 is under what regulatory? EPA, tier 1?
So there's essentially two different types of panels. The panel that the chairman's referring to are typically like called thin film panels, where they have essentially some hazardous stuff in them. Again, those, I don't know that anyone uses those anymore, but the traditional panels that are used these days just contain things like metals that we need to conduct electricity. And they're completely sealed in glass, they don't leach.
I was just asking what you referred to tier 1 panels, and I didn't know who creates the.
There's ASTM reviews of the panels.
He'll get back to us.
I mean, if you want cut sheets, we can try to get.
Just trying to understand, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
It's a
asked
tier
applicants
one and a
before
tier
for cut
two,
sheets
or-
on the panels, so we can provide cut sheets on the panels.
Yes.
The ASTM numbers that regulate those covered under. Page 10, item 17.
Hang on just a minute. How can I get rid of these panels when they're all used up?
They're going to be disposed of in
Where?
accordance with,
Huh?
if you could, let me finish my answer, I'll give it to you. They'll be disposed of in accordance with whatever the laws and regulations are at the time. Right now, there's facilities that are looking at to try to recycle them. So there's less waste generated from them, so when they essentially take them apart, pull out the metals, pull out the usable materials, and try to use them to create new materials. There's some companies that take these panels and recycle them to other companies where they have, less economic resources when they take panels that are less efficient. But regardless, whatever the regulatory and statutory requirements are at the time is what we will have to do.
Have any idea what the cost of that will be?
I can't give you that. I mean, what everyone does is provides an estimate, and that's the best that anyone can do today. I don't think any of us can say what the cost to dispose of anything will be in 25 years. Whether that's concrete, Walmart, a car, I don't know if you can
Well,
guarantee any of that.
I'm talking about a cost that's gonna come around in 30 years.
Correct.
If we look back 30 years from today, at what costs were then to what costs are now, can we use that as a projection? As where costs might be at that point?
Well, typically, what is done on these projects is we would provide a cost estimate, your engineer would look at it, and included in that decommissioning requirement is an annual escalator that accounts for inflation.
You've done these projects in other places. Do you still own all the ones you started?
Currently, yes.
Do you have plans to sell any of them?
We do. We have plans to sell.
Well, how does town know that people you sell this project to have the resources in 30 years to dispose of this?
Right.
And how do we know that it won't be sold 4 or 5 more times to people who may or may not have the resources?
Many towns write it right into the
I'm
special.
sorry, I didn't understand.
Many towns put it right into the special use permit before you're allowed to sell a project. You have to have permission from the planning board. Also, before we start construction, we put a bond in place for decommissioning. That's typically revisited every 5 years.
Okay. Number 17, consistency with community plans. Proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. The project is located in an A40 zone, which is an allowed use with a special use permit. Therefore, I said the project is consistent with community plans. So the answer to that is no.
Does the comprehensive plan come into play with adopted land use plan?
So the answer would be yes, but it is noted for the record that while the town has the comprehensive plan, it did update and adopt its current zoning law in 2017, and the property is zoned for this proposed use, subject to special use permit and site plan review. So in that regard, looking at the zoning law, the project certainly is consistent with the permitted and special permit uses in that zone.
Any other questions on that? Okay, number 18. Consistency with community character. The
proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character, I say yes. The proposed action is inconsistent with the character of the existing natural landscape. Significant portions of the natural landscape are changed by the installation of several thousand solar panels that are visible from nearby rural residential properties and other public viewpoints. The change to the natural landscape is of significant size and in sharp contrast to the surrounding area. Going down through the sub-items under number 18, and going through the EAF workbook, I've identified item number F, proposed action is inconsistent with the character of the existing natural landscape as a moderate to large impact.
The definition for E, inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character. Do they, does the workbook reference solar?
It does. It actually lists what they consider no or small impact and what is moderate to large. I can read that. I can find it. E, you said?
Correct.
Nope, I don't have that. I would have to look that up. If I printed out the whole thing, I'd leave that.
Now in B, were they created a demand for fire? Mark? Not school employees, of course, but not fire.
Well, it could. Is that a large impact or is that a small impact?
I think if there was a fire there, it'd be a large impact.
So this question does address demand for services. Will additional equipment, manpower, members be needed for this proposed project? Are there equipment requirements? What the board has done on projects such as this is to have the fire department review the site and review the plans, determine accessibility, maneuverability, layout, what equipment they may need to fight the fire, and if one occurred. So there's been coordination with the relevant fire departments on these. The question generally is geared toward the equipment needs, vehicle needs, and additional manpower for the particular
As a
project.
fire company,
Yeah.
Would they have access to the site through a gate, a Knox box or something like
Yes.
that?
Yes.
And there's plenty of interior roads to be able to space between the panels to, in certain sections to run a, right?
Yes.
That would be something that they would review. Okay. All right.
That concludes all of the items that are in the parks.
Okay. So at this point, Andy. We have to part 3 on this. And before we do that, there has to be somewhat a direction of what the declaration would be. Is that correct?
So I'll let Wayne review that, but procedurally, the full environmental assessment form is designed to provide the board, in this case, the lead agency, with the information on the potential adverse environmental impacts. That's part 1. It's been reviewed by Wayne. And you review the project documents as well as any additional technical reports that have been submitted, and Wayne's office has reviewed those. The department's seeker forms here, Part 2. Part 2 is designed to pose a series of questions to help the lead agency make that determination. So it's a guide through the potential impacts and whether impacts have been identified, and if yes, are they small or are they moderate to large? You use that discussion, that deliberation, to then formulate whether to adopt a positive declaration or negative declaration, and that's made in Part 3. And so good general guidance is if there are moderate to large impacts identified, those should be further deliberated, so Wayne can then, with direction of the board, prepare a proposed, again, draft Part 3 for your review.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, given we just got this for the first time tonight, I think we would like the opportunity to kind of digest and look at what Wayne has provided. I know there were some questions on some things and what the workbook says. I think you have some questions for Wayne. I think we'd also like a chance to review. So I would ask that we get the opportunity to review and provide any comments that we might have.
Absolutely.
Next meeting.
absolutely. I have no opposition to that at all.
Thank you.
I think that would be prudent thing to do. And then would you provide us with feedback at our next meeting, or would you?
We would provide it in writing in advance so we can look at it, consider it individually before the meeting. And then,
Okay,
you could also have Wayne's input on our comments in advance of the meeting as well. So we'll get that to you as soon as possible.
okay, good, all right.
Just want to confirm, the next meeting is going to be the 17th?
17th of July. Yes.
Okay.
And I assume you want to be on the review.
Yes, please.
All right. Do you have any other questions, immediate questions on the Part 2 that may need clarification before you go, or not at this point?
No, I don't think we do.
Okay. So we will put you on the agenda for the 17th of July, at which point we will have an opportunity, I hope, to look at your remarks and then give it Wayne, and we'll move forward on this.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody have any additional questions for the applicant? Are you all set, Wayne?
I'll wait till I hear from the board before we finalize this.
Okay. Any additional comments?
Not at this time.
Okay. Any comments from any of the board? And I think we're all set for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Look at backtrack on a couple things here before we have, there it is, okay, the Toledo Development Group come up, they have arrived, so we're back to item number 4 on the agenda. But I did want to make one note in regards to the castle, the Crown Castle approval. We did receive some correspondence back from the Rensselaer County Economic. Does that have to be noted in there?
We'll look.
Okay. Okay. Come on up.
Appreciate you accommodating my this writing of the calendar. I wrote it in my calendar that night for Thursday. We talked about it.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
here I am. Somebody gave us a heads up, so we made it.
okay. You have submitted a copy of the responses to the comments at the public hearing. We had a public hearing at the last time. I am disorganized tonight, but I do have them here, and I'd like you to go through those with us. You could?
Sure can.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll read each comment as was transcribed in the hearing. In the same document, we also responded to two letters we received, two correspondences we received from interested and involved agencies. I put those responses on the record here as well.
Okay.
So we'll start with the public hearing comments. The first commenter, Mr. Fowler, asked whether New York or Rensselaer County had jurisdiction on the roadway. And our answer is this section of Oakwood Avenue is under the jurisdiction of Rensselaer County. It's posted as a New York road, but it's Rensselaer County. They have that, there is a permit in place for that driveway. He asked the basis for the trip generation numbers that were submitted. As we stated that night, trip generation data is based on the ITE land use code for that size retail, and it's calculated to the size, to the exact size of the building, so 9,100 square feet. Comment asking tractor trailer delivery schedule. Respond to that. The deliveries are generally made during regular business hours, which are proposed to be from 8 to 10. Less frequent than one per day. And then we did add in that they're expecting one tractor trailer a week and 2 to 3 times a week for a smaller box truck.
Okay.
During working hours.
During normal hours, yeah. They have no outside storage, so whatever they take off the truck has to go right in the door. He asked if a traffic light was warranted, and the answer was no. There are specific warrants published by the DOT. And the county does follow those, and we don't fulfill those warrants. The next commenter was Stephen Maples. He commented about wetlands. There are no wetlands on the site proper. If you do review the resource mapper, you'll see that there are none there. There are wetlands nearby, but not in any location that would be affected by this project. There was some comments about the light industrial zoning district of the town, and that's across from residential areas of Troy, et cetera. And we just responded that broader land use and planning considerations are not applicable in the review of the site plan application, as this proposal is compliant with the zoning and land use regulation. Also, Mr. Ferrero, he did identify himself, although I don't know that he was here in an official capacity, he did identify himself as a member of the City of Troy Planning Department. He was curious about the traffic patterns. Our response was generally related to commuter traffic to and from Troy-Albany area and to areas north, and with some traffic with specific origin and destination in the adjacent land uses. There are some residential projects nearby. He questioned who would the project be serving, and his quote was, which would appear to be residents of the city of Troy, and that Troy was looking at traffic patterns as a result. This project is intended to serve residents of Brunswick and Troy that might be and others who might be in the normal traffic commute to and from, and those who live nearby, in the nearby residential areas. I would say as an aside, there are similar small store uses in the city of Troy. So I think people who live down in the Lansingburg section would have an equal opportunity for this Dollar General type store in their neighborhood. So it's probably unlikely that they're going to commute up.
So basically, this would not be classified as a destination.
The site is desirable because of the traffic on
Yeah.
the existing traffic on Oakwood Avenue. They're trying to snag some of that. He also commented that the city of Troy should be working with town of Brunswick regarding traffic patterns. He said for both the Hoosick Road, Sickaway area and the Oakwood Avenue area in terms of future growth. So same response, broader land use and planning considerations not applicable in this particular review. We're compliant with the existing land use and zoning regulations. We also had a email comment letter from the Spiegeltown Fire Department, which we've discussed before. They had some comment about the area in the rear near the dumpster be widened or elongated partially to allow the fire department to locate the aerial ladder. So our response is we will consider that during the final site plan prep to make whatever accommodations can be done there to allow them to set up that truck. They asked for recommended sprinkler system for the building, and this building does not meet the size, the code, the minimum size requirements to make that a code requirement, so there won't be a sprinkler system. And they asked for a Knox box, which where you lock your keys in, and the applicant has agreed to provide that. We did receive planning comments from the County Bureau of Planning. They were transmitted to us earlier this month. And a comment, proposed delivery area does not look accessible to trucks. Dumpsters are in the way of the delivery door. Semi-trucks would have difficulty reaching the area due to the curbs from the existing building next door. So if you refer to the site plan, I'll read our response. The loading area is not a high-level loading dock that requires the truck to back into, but rather just a double door, man door, accessed by a sidewalk ramp that will be utilized by either hand trucks or pallet jacks. And then the trucks that will be unloading there will exit around behind the existing building towards the south along that truck route and out the southerly access. And if you look at the rear elevations in the site plan package, it really just shows a double door at almost ground level, just with a hydrant curve, so that, you know, the soda man will hand truck his pallet, is a hand cart or a pallet jack to go through those doors. So it's not really a high-level loading dock that you might have at a Target or a Walmart. They comment on use of parking areas alongside the building would work, except the existing hydrant may get hit. We show on the site plan that existing hydrant is isolated from the parking area by concrete curbing and will be continued to be protected by existing bollards. There are some bollards there now, and that will be maintained. So, and they defer to local consideration in their order. So that's all the comments we got. I guess if we had any more questions, comments from the board or anyone who could answer them.
Does anybody have any comments on the responses to the public hearing?
It seems like there's an awful lot of discussion about the loading area, and I was wondering if there was any modifications or.
Well, we do have
improvements to the site plan.
we will look at the vehicle that the Spiegeltown Fire Department has there. There's not it's pretty basic. It's just I'll call it a curb ramp there that would allow them to wheel their pallet jack or hand trucks up there. And the dumpsters are set at the back. So if we had to move the dumpsters, say back in to give them more room for the truck to set up, that's something we could look at. The aspect of loading, the client is satisfied that that would be adequate. It's not really in a main traffic pattern. It is really sort of out of the way in the back of the site. And one truck a day, one truck a week that would occupy that area wouldn't foul the normal traffic patterns of the site.
Or if the stall was painted out to allow for the arms of the aerial truck to go down?
We could strike that, we could label it no parking or something like that, whatever, how we want to call it, fire zone or something like that, loading zone, whatever that would delineate it, demarcate it from a normal parking. We do have some parking on the side of the building, but by the time we get to the corner, that parking goes away. We're kind of leaving that area open. So that's something we could look at for the final site plan.
What's the distance between the two buildings?
I'm gonna say it's a 25-foot side, a 20-foot side setback to the aisle, to the drive aisle, which is on the next property. So another 24 feet. So I'm gonna say it's 50 feet. I apologize for not having the plan with me.
It's 50 feet from the other building to the property line, and then another,
It's 20, 15. Is that 50?
yeah, 15 plus sidewalks, so yeah, it's,
So 50, 50, 65, and 10, 75 feet
Oh, there's a lot
from
of room there.
face of building to face of building. Yeah.
Plus your deliveries are driving and they're not backing in.
They'll
So-
drive in.
I mean, he's gonna have to hit it head on to. I could see if they're backing in there to be an issue, but since they're driving in, I'm not too worried about it.
They can drive in, they'll drive in there to the right and then back into that area in front of the door.
Right, and the dollar store that was over here where the Walmart Plaza is, had the similar unloading in the back, there's no loading dock. Just
Yes, just-
pulled up to the back door, unloaded through the back entries. So it's not uncommon, I mean, even all them, most of them malls, except for like the Grand Union or the Price Shop, have docks, but most of these smaller ones are just, what's that?
like a truck, delivery truck pulling up the speedway, you know?
Well, yeah, and a lot of these deliveries, those smaller box trucks are like, I referenced this, the Pepsi truck, he's going to 8 places in that day, so they're coming and they're staying for 20 minutes.
Same as Stewart's.
Yeah, like a Stewart's or something. There's no reason to keep a truck there. You know, Target or Walmart might unload a whole 45-foot trailer, hold it most of
Unload
the
or
day.
unhook the trailer, leave it.
Leave it
So-
there, sure.
I would like to see some kind of easement that goes across that other parcel, so it's 2 separate parcels. Somebody decides that they don't want the loading guy to drive behind their building. I think you mentioned that they was gonna pull behind the existing building and back in,
Yeah,
or,
there is an easement from the street to the rear property line. I'd have to look at the survey and see if that easement carries around the building, and maybe that's something that has to be written.
or maybe it's just enough so that he could turn around.
I thought that easement was already in place.
Yeah,
One guy still owns everything, so.
It's possible, we have to go back and look,
I think.
and see what was there. I know there is an
Yeah,
easement
we're gonna
here
stop
for
right now.
egress.
man.
Well, there's a cross easement too for utilities, for sanitary, for stormwater.
Yeah, there's all utilities are there, gas, water, sanitary, sewer, and access, because the access is on the property to the south. So you can check behind the building and see how that's worded.
Yeah, check on the status of that easement. I thought it was in place.
It's my understanding that it is an existing easement.
So you might have to update the language on your map that says to be executed.
Yeah. We are having, I'm told that Rod Michael is updating the base map, so we'll check that.
Does anybody have any other comments or questions on the responses? And pretty much is satisfied the requirement of the board. Moving forward, we still have some questions on easements before we can.
Well, he's still working on the site plan, so.
Were you have any comments on the plan?
I don't have any major comments.
If you had whatever handful of comments that you want to transmit to us, we'd make sure that we address them before the.
I'll take another look through it.
I'm not asking you to find it.
I can find some.
Just want to have.
You need a couple of things, huh?
Depends on my mood.
So obviously we can't act on this right now, because we don't have a full site plan. Correct? You don't have we need a more complete site.
Well, I mean, it's complete. He had just said that he's still working on some details on his site plan. So
We could-
I'd rather see, yeah,
You could condition the approval on that, on a satisfactory resolving those, an easement is an easement if that either exists or can be written. That would be a condition of signature perhaps. And if he has minor
Comment on
comments,
this?
we can work through that.
Procedurally, that's correct. There's some options from the board. You could ask to see the final site plan and have Wayne review it, then act on it. There is the procedural option of granting conditional final approval, where the conditions will need to be satisfied before the approval is final, but you could act and grant it conditional final. That's within your discretion. With Wayne's input, how do you think, what would be the best approach, you think?
I think I'd like to see
yeah, let's do one more
brand
iteration
new
here
site
and
plan, complete site plan.
let Francis give us a complete site plan. Approval and filing.
Okay. Can you do that by our next meeting?
Oh, for sure, certainly, yeah.
All right.
If you can get it to me ahead of time, you know, then
Yeah, I was working this week on a Thursday meeting, that's why things went out yesterday, so. We'll work next week, next month on the regular meeting schedule, but, if you have comments that got to me, I can put them in that plan.
yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I think I asked them all.
Okay,
If
we'll,
they send them on.
we'll put you on the agenda for the 17th. We have 3 items on the agenda. Since you were first on this agenda, you'll probably be first to go on the meeting at the 17th.
July 17th, I'll make sure I have you on the right dates.
Okay. All right, if you have no other questions, I think we're done for this evening.
I'm satisfied, thank you.
Okay, thanks for hustling over.
Yeah, thanks for accommodating.
Okay, that concludes our regular agenda. We do have one item on the new business, and that is Crown Castle. Sorry you had to wait so long.
No, that's fine.
Interesting for us.
Very interesting. Two very interesting projects.
Now, this one, where are we? We got to refresh my memory since the beginning of the meeting. We approved one.
Right.
And now you have the same location for a second.
Right. So at that same location, Verizon is applying to swap their antennas. So there's a slight reduction in the size of one of the antennas, and the other two, so there's 3 antennas per sector, 9 total.
Okay,
One of the antennas that they're switching to is much smaller than the existing one. The other two are about the same. Those big 8-foot antennas, they mount in pairs. And it's, it's a technological upgrade mostly. These antennas have, better capacity, probably have more frequencies that they can handle.
does this amend the site plan and the special use permit? Or just the site plan?
Yep, that's Kevin's determination.
Yes.
I see nodding head, so yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're required to have a public hearing with a special use permit.
I expect,
So,
I understand.
But you get to move to the front of the meeting.
Yeah.
And then back to the,
Just don't bring any more antennas in.
Well, the other thing is you have a second one too, right? For-
Yes, and it's the same thing, but at a different location, they're swapping antennas, almost identical. Same antennas are existing, same antennas are being proposed.
Okay,
One of them is slightly smaller. And the other ones are, roughly the same size. But on this one, the existing antennas are spaced apart. I don't know if you can see that, but the existing antennas are on either end of the boom, 12-foot boom. the proposed antennas are gonna put in the center together. So there'll be one, it'll look like one bigger antenna, but it's really just two antennas right next to
Okay.
each other. And then the third is much smaller than the existing third. It's probably inch for inch, very little change.
You're heading a cable bridge or something too, right?
Um,
Isn't that one new cable bridge from the tower to the building?
I don't think so. I think
No,
everything's.
That's the other one? I think that was the Bald Mountain one.
Oh, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think I saw, had an N next to it.
Right,
Had
they're,
an E next to everything else and then an N next.
well, the ice bridge is existing, but the cables are new. So
Is that what they're pointing out, just the new cables? The
Right.
ice bridge is the same?
they're removing some of the coax and they're installing fiber optic bundles.
No building.
No, nothing really on the ground. I don't even think they're changing any radios or anything. It's just the antennas.
So once again, this is an amendment to a site plan and a special use plan.
Correct.
And once again, we have to have a public, nobody objects, I don't see why we just don't have the two public hearings, one right after the other, at our next meeting.
A twofer.
But,
So again, the timeframes on these are 30 days to determine completeness. Please review that with Kevin. And then 60 days within which to act.
okay,
The submittal dates were June 16, June 18, so, or at least that's the date they were received.
we've done it
The letters
fall.
may be dated May 22, they seem to have been received by the town June 16 and June 8. Yeah,
Are they within the parameters? The timeframe?
Right now, it's within the initial 30 days for completeness, and the 60 days would run through the middle of August. So procedurally, however you want to handle that. First step would be if the town wanted to complete this determination or ask for additional information. If not, you can move forward with your public hearings.
Okay. Do we need additional information? I think it's pretty close.
I was satisfied with it. I'll defer to Wayne.
Yeah, I reviewed them. I would deem them complete. I don't need any additional.
Okay. We could, well, once we, deem them complete, we can.
Schedule a public hearing, correct?
So, why don't we schedule a public hearing for our next meeting on the 17th? We'll do the, whose numbers are these things? We'll do the Cropsyville one first at 7 o'clock, followed by the or the Gold Mountain one at 7:15.
Can we do it at like 7:05?
I was gonna say, if I can make a suggestion,
Yeah.
notice the first one for 7 and the next one for 7:05 or as soon thereafter is gonna be heard, so you can.
Okay.
proceed with one
All right.
next. I wouldn't anticipate much public comment.
Okay. All right.
Otherwise, you're doing sock puppets in there.
Great, and we will see you on the 17th, and you will be first on the agenda. How's that?
It's awesome.
Okay.
I will
In
have
second.
bells on.
First and second. Yeah, you'll be first and second, followed by reviewing the agenda. I guess we're done. Have a nice night. Thanks for waiting. Okay. Toledo would be third, Paramount fourth, and bringing up the rear would be, CV. Is there any questions on that agenda? Okay, is there any other new business? I wouldn't think so, right? Is there any old business? I do have one comment on old business. The cell tower on Eagle Ridge, those panels they got on there are just sticking right out. They had I saw a picture of it. I didn't see it up close. You might want to take a look at those. They just stick right out of a tree. I mean, they're not concealed or anything. I don't know whether they could put additional things around them, or at least paint them. They're white, paint them green or something. You know what I mean? But I just thought I'd mention that.
Okay, take a look, see if they're in conformance to what we.
They may have corrected. I mean, they may have been under construction.
Mhm.
But I got a call. I know I saw an email from that Mrs. McDonald up there.
Okay.
Todd McDonald's wife. She showed a picture of on Facebook or something. All right, if there's nothing else,
I'll make a motion.
you got a motion to adjourn, do I have a second? Second, all those in favor? Any opposed? We're out of here, thank you for your patience. And here's your
You need it here.
No, I'm trying to get away from the new phone.
Andy, who's Doug reporting for now?
I don't know.
Oh, he didn't say.
I'll be here. I said I'm back.
After half an hour chasing down somebody that could talk instead of AI.
Oh, I don't know.
Good. We don't have any.
Shit's all in.
Okay.
Well, you just wanna look at it. I thought the ads.
Yeah, we can do that.
The address.
We can do that.
So we get the same thing from the.
North.
He's not getting my DT meeting.
You did,
Okay.
He did.
but
Oh, there's a button.
there's a bug.
We have a 3 weekly